Hey y'all, welcome to the Pace Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Ellen.
I'm Lizzie.
And today we are going to talk about some of the best music of 2019. You know, the year is winding down, a lot of best of lists are coming out, and it gives us a great opportunity to talk about all the albums, songs, and artists that we really love this year. And you can go to pacemagazine.com and look at our list of the 50 best albums of 2019. But right now we're going to talk about the top 10 from that list. So coming in at number 10 is a local to Atlanta artist named Faye Webster, who I think we all really fell in love with this year.
Absolutely. Is this, can we say that this is the breeziest album
so
of the year?
So breezy. This album came out in maybe May, June, something like that. And it was the perfect summer album. I mean, there's some sad songs on here about, kind of being lonely, being a shut-in, it's definitely an album for people who like to hang out indoors. But it is so breezy and so kind of relaxing in a way.
But it's groovy and funky.
It's groovy and funky. It's got some R&B woven in there. Faye Webster, again, Atlanta artist who has a lot of ties to the hip hop community. She has pedal steel on every single one of her songs. And it gives it such a just kind of warm, relaxed.
Very light twang.
Yeah.
But
a little country.
Not overwhelming. Like it's
yeah. I think we can honestly say there are not many albums. There's really nothing that came out this year that sounds anything like what Faye Webster is doing.
And I think it's a pretty substantial improvement from her self-titled record.
Yeah. So she released 2 records before this, which were great, but she was a little younger. So now I think she's kind of coming into herself, realizing who she is as an artist, and really exciting to watch. And coming in at number 9, another artist that we just literally cannot get enough of this year, along with everyone else, who is Lizzo. And, Lizzo, she released 'Cause I Love You, not her first, record release. She's been releasing music since 2014, 2015?
Yeah, we got her in the Daytrotter studio.
Yeah, you can go
look it up.
You can go on our website and search her and watch old footage of her actually singing some songs that she still keeps in rotation, because several of the songs on this album, or one, Truth Hurts, was actually released a couple years ago and kind of had a resurgence. And it's been really cool to see kind of everyone else in the country catch up with Lizzo. She is one of the most popular, Grammy nominated artists to come out of 2019. And it's kind of neat to see, we've been watching her for a little while.
Yeah, I think just a few years ago, she had this kind of reputation of this rapper who also plays flute.
Right.
Amazing.
Oh, quirky.
She can dance as well. It was kind of more of a, headline around those types of things.
Right.
But I think now that we have an album that feels so much needed in 2019,
so true.
And it's just so uplifting. I mean, everybody now is on the self-care, self-love train.
Yes.
This is gonna just, soundtrack that ride.
Yeah, great way to start the new decade.
Yeah.
For sure. And then number 8, on a different note, is Julia Jacklin with her album, her sophomore LP, Crushing, which is a crushing listen, I will say. It will make you feel all the things.
Yes.
It is very sad, full of lots of really incredible, smartly written breakup songs, and just, a really moving album from start to finish.
Her voice is so rich on this record, and I think this record actually reminds me of some elements of the other records in our top 10, in that it's very woozy and sort of there's a sway to this album. And
similar to Faye in a way.
Yeah, and I think whether or not you liked her stuff with Fantastic Furniture, I think anybody, whether or not you've been in some sort of breakup, which she supposedly has been through. But I think it's sort of an album that really celebrates independence and sort of reclaiming yourself. And
definitely,
we could all use some of that.
Absolutely. And coming in at number 7 is Carly Rae Jepsen with Dedicated, which is the follow-up to her 2015 album Emotion, which obviously made our best of the decade list, an incredible, album for pop artists to look up to. And I think Dedicated, the more I've listened to it, the more I think it's just as good.
It's, what's amazing is that I think whereas a lot of other pop stars have gone a more sort of arty vein, I think she's held her ground as being, the sort of
bubblegum.
I think the sort of representative of the bubblegum wing of pop stars. And I think she's probably the best one that still is doing that type of thing.
Yeah, and she does it better than anyone else. I mean, she pulls obviously heavily from 80s pop music, and she just makes it work better than anyone else on the charts. So Dedicated. And then number 6 is Brittany Howard with her first ever solo album, Jamie. And this is the, of course, lead singer of the rock band Alabama Shakes. They had 2 albums come out this decade. And then she, this year, released her solo album. And I mean, you just keep seeing more and more of best of 2019 lists coming out, and she is consistently at the top on every single one.
I'm really surprised. I think anybody that would have been coming here, having been an Alabama Shakes fan, I think was probably surprised by this record.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, there's sort of some root stuff still happening, some bluesy stuff happening, but there's spoken word on here. There's I don't know. It's a record that feels, again, the fact that it's so hard to define makes it very 2019.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I'm not the biggest Alabama Shakes fan or anything by any means, but I was very pleasantly surprised by this record.
And as a huge Alabama Shakes fan, I was also very delighted by this album.
Something for everyone.
Yeah,
here.
really something for everyone. And then you mentioned earlier how some pop artists have gone down an artier route. And I think the best example of that is FKA Twigs with her album Magdalene, which is the definition of art pop in a record.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, just looking at the album cover, you're like, okay, I'm in for something a little bit more sort of contorted.
A little off kilter here.
Yes. Yeah. But I think her vocals are very ghostly. It's a very vocally driven record. A lot of the instrumentals are more kind of minimal and strange. But I don't know. I think if you're looking for something that's kind of spooky but very challenging, like this is a record that you're gonna have to process and listen to over and over and over again to really grasp what her vision is for this record. It's definitely the opposite end of the spectrum with Carly Rae Jepsen on here.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not sure if I prefer this to her previous record, LP1. It's definitely, again, more challenging.
Definitely.
But I think give it a listen. Give it a try.
Yeah, if you're up for the challenge, check it out. And then coming in at number 4 is Big Thief's Two Hands. And this is a band that 2019 was undoubtedly their year. I mean, they have 2 albums out this year, and both of them are on our best of 2019 list. The first one, UFOF, and then the second one, Two Hands. And, you know, different publications and critics have had those 2 albums kind of at different spots. But I love how we have Two Hands in the top 10. I think it's one of my favorite albums of the year.
I think both of them have elements of rawness to them, but between the 2, this one is definitely more. There's less,
more pared down.
Yeah, there's less embellishments, and I mean, I guess part of the reason I like UFOF so much is that it's a very otherworldly record, and this one doesn't necessarily have that, but it's I love the sort of brash moments on this record that just kind of explode out of nowhere, and they're still using, you know, the kind of indie folk rock-ish setup, but I don't know, it still feels like from Capacity and Masterpiece, like this is taking it several notches up.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of their best songs are on this record, Two Hands.
Definitely. Been very cool to watch that band really kind of blow up this year even more than they already were. And then another artist who's been around for a while, but this year put out a record that I think some people might consider her best, is Sharon Van Etten with Remind Me Tomorrow. And we're talking about, you know, folk rock. She was kind of a queen of like, you know, solo folk rock songwriting. She had an album come out in 2014 called Are We There? Just really incredible, pared down kind of folk songs. And then here she comes, like week 1 of 2019, January, with this album, Remind Me Tomorrow, which is so bold and loud and synthy and just completely different from anything we'd ever heard from her before.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't have expected those sort of witchier moments on this record.
That's a good word.
Having
what
listened
a year
to
for
her
witches,
previous...
honestly. I mean, we got Maggie Rogers, we got FKA Twigs, we got all the spooky vibes on this list.
lots of spooky.
Yeah,
I don't know, but even the synths on this record, like, they're not a distraction. It's not going to take you away from the sort of classic Sharon Van Etten song that you've come to know and love. I think it's just showing a different side of her.
Yeah, and she also released our favorite song of 2019, which is 17, which is on this album. And And then coming in number 2 is Angel Olsen with her record, All Mirrors. And I think kind of these top 3 records, and we'll get to number 1 in a minute, are all kind of good companion listens to each other. They all have very similar grandiose moments. But I mean, Angel Olsen, it was with this record, All Mirrors, we all heard it and we were like, this is for sure. Yeah. And, you know, could be the album of the year.
I think those were statement-making singles. So when those first couple of singles came out, we were kind of like, all right, we're got our attention.
In. Yeah, we'll listen to whatever you do.
Yeah, very sprawling, very grand. I don't know. I think if you like retro pop of any vein, you're just going to love this record.
And speaking of retro pop, we've got another retro moment for us here at number 1, which is Wise Blood's Titanic Rising. Another album where the singles started to come out and going from Wise Blood being kind of a folk-leaning artist to being this kind of grand pop rock moment here. I mean, we all were paying attention from the get-go, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think this record, for some reason, immediately had a timeless quality to it.
Absolutely.
I think, I immediately was thinking like Carole King, which is like, that's enough for me right there.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't know. I think there's also a sort of cinematic kind of
definitely
maybe slight witchiness, but it's just a dash.
Yeah, and speaking of cinematic, she has a song called Movies on here, which is also one of our best songs of the year as well. So that is number 1, Wise Blood's Titanic Rising, and you can read the entire list at pacemagazine.com, as well as all of our other genre-specific 2019 lists, and keep checking back for more of those as the month winds down.